Yo, pull up a chair, let the real talk begin. Faith on the table where the brothers lock in. Life gets heavy, but we stand our ground. Truth in the room when the circle comes round. No mask, no front, just real man here. Talking about faith through the doubt and the fear. From the grind of the week to the lessons we share. Welcome to the men's round table, pull up a chair. Men's round table series, step inside. Real men, real faith where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the men's round table, pull up a chair.
What if those of you that are stuck in pain right now can actually live again without waiting for closure's official permission first? Today we're talking about grief, resilience, and what it really means to carry pain with a purpose instead of letting it define you. Welcome to the Men's Roundtable Series podcast and Spotlight, where we have honest conversations with husbands, fathers, brothers, and sons and help them lead with strength, purpose, and integrity. I'm Mr. U, and today I'm joined by Neal Tricarico, who spent more than 2 decades working alongside motivational speaker Tony Robbins, as well as developing the Endurant Way, a powerful philosophy that changed the myth or challenges the myth of closure, and offers a new path to resilience, healing, and purpose. Neal, welcome to the Men's Roundtable Series Spotlight, brother. Good to have you here, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be here. And I really appreciate that intro. It reminds me of Tony Robbins events, getting the blood flowing and getting pumped up.
It was high praise. But thank you very much for doing that, brother. I appreciate it so much. I got your website up in the comment section for those people who need to find it. We'll bring it up periodically through the episode, but let's jump in. So first off, I hear a little accent. So I've seen a few pictures. I looked you up a little bit. I see some New York connections.
Yes.
Is that right? Do we have that going on right now?
We do, although, I live in San Diego, but both of my parents are from Brooklyn, Canarsie and Sheepshead Bay. So I've just grown up, New York through and through. Mets fan, Giants fan. I know that's not a most common combination, but yeah, where in New York are you?
I'm from Brooklyn originally. That's my hometown, Flatbush, Bedford-Stuyvesant, and Crown Heights specifically. I'm in the Charleston, South Carolina metro now. So I moved to South Carolina, to Tampa, Florida, and back to South Carolina. So I totally get that. I still got family out there. I visit when I can, man, but I get the move. I totally get it. You avoided the snow. No more shoveling. Nothing wrong with that, man. Smart move by you and your family, man. No problem there, man. That's good stuff.
Well, I miss the vibe and the energy, though. We get back twice a year, usually in the winter and summer. And I love Charleston. Just was there a couple of months ago visiting College of Charleston with my daughter. What a great area.
Oh, yeah, man. She's gonna love it. She decided to come out here and hang out. You guys spend some time out here, so you probably already know. It's definitely not New York, but it's good in its own way, man. But I want to jump into some story from you, man. So you have an incredible life story. I want to bring that out, man, because I think one of the things that I want to touch on to make sure we hammer that home for the men in our audience, and oftentimes women are watching too and listening as well too. They're not excluded. This show is just for men specifically, but they always are invited. In case you didn't know, we have a Men's Roundtable Series podcast, Neal, every Thursday night, 7 p.m. EST. Men from around the country on a panel talking about men's issues. You're definitely invited to be a part of that if you have the time. But every man has a before and after moment, man. And I want to, if you don't mind, getting into what losing Anthony did to you in that space, and what did it force you to kind of have to build or rebuild?
Yeah, great question. I would love to join the panel and the round table. It sounds like an awesome show and just what I needed. So, yeah, 2 years ago, I lost my son Anthony to suicide, and Anthony was my pride and joy, is my pride and joy, and amazing human being and young man. And I'm so blessed for the 16 and a half years that we had together. And Anthony struggled with high functioning autism. And while, life on the outside seems normal, and in many cases, as though he were thriving, his struggles with mental health and depression were very real. And he had a 2-year journey, our whole family did, where he was struggling with suicidality. And sadly, we despite all of our efforts, including his, he had it in mind for his senior project to focus on suicide prevention and, most importantly, removing the stigma of the word suicide. So it was very, very real for him. And we came to realize after a few weeks after that, unbeknownst to us, kids between the ages of 12 and 18 with this high functioning autism diagnosis are nearly 30% more likely to take their own lives. And they're the group with the highest completion rate, meaning when they make up their minds, that's decided. And while very, very tragic and heartbreaking and truly every bit of a parent's worst nightmare, the experience sort of post-loss has been profound. So when you talk about what was my identity before, thriving, successful, professional, I believe a pretty good father and husband, and losing Anthony, and especially losing Anthony in the way we did, shattered my life. People talk about surviving suicide and will often refer to me as a survivor of suicide. And I point out to them that I haven't survived that suicide. My life ended that day as well. I'm still here, and I'm born into a new life. And I think that is the part that we're wanting to explore. And it started with the outpouring of love and support from our community, our family, our friends, and folks from far and wide. So Anthony, died by suicide, but he was revived and lived for nearly 9 weeks with significant brain injuries. And during this time is when the community came out and through their love, support, prayers, a friend of ours asked if she could do an all faiths welcome prayer circle. And it was such a beautiful experience because Anthony transformed a bit, but for my wife and daughter and me, the love that we felt from our community, whether someone was sharing that Jesus died on the cross so that Anthony could. In the Zohar, it is believed he's in favor because. In the Buddhist tradition, we believe that X. Whatever their lens of faith was, it was received as pure love and light for Anthony, my wife, and my daughter and I. And it was magical to transcend religion and to understand in this real meaningful way that we're connected at a very deep and spiritual heart level. And it was beautiful. So my wife and I could easily be in the corner in the fetal position suffering. Yeah. That was the first step where, I don't know, Mr. Yu, if you ever pray for people or if you're called upon to pray for people. For me, I have all the time, right? And I don't know if this is your experience, but for me, I'll stop whatever I'm doing. I'll ask for the person's name. I'll drop to my knees. I'll pray for them. And I'll feel pretty good about it that I've done it. And I feel hopeful, but I don't know what happens. Well, what I could share with you in full transparency as the receiver of those prayers, the love and light and energy is magical. And we still feel it. So those were the first seeds of this new identity. And I'll pause there for a second before I kind of go into the experience of grief and the closure lie and stuff. But this was something that shocked me, but I wasn't surprised, but I still wasn't prepared for. But the first seed of possibility that life was still worth living came through that love and connection from a community, far and wide.
Yeah. I want to come back to the closure lie. I want to ask you something else first. I know there's a lot of men and a good bit of our audience of people that I actually know from around the country, people who I've served, who have been in conference with, you name it. A lot of us men have kind of believed secretly that our pain disqualifies us from being able to do things. We were taught that we can't share our emotions openly. We can't cry. All the things that are part of the imaginary or the invisible playbook that men have to deal with, the narrative that men have to deal with. So sometimes we think that pain disqualifies us from relationships, from purpose, etc. What do you say to the man who's watching or listening to this that might be in survival mode? They may wonder if they have anything meaningful to give. What do you say to them, Neal? How do you encourage them?
Yeah, that myth that you've shared about how men are supposed to be, and that we can't cry, and that we can't be vulnerable, and we can't show our pain, is just that. It's a myth. And I honor you, brother, for breaking this myth and working tirelessly day and night and through your show to do that. What I would share first is, number one, in my experience, especially in the past 2 years, vulnerability is your superpower, men, brothers, fathers, husbands. Vulnerability is your superpower. And so let go of that myth, let go of that conditioning, be raw, be real. Not only do men need that, boys need that. Our spouses, our significant others need that. So vulnerability is your superpower. You will have far greater impact by being vulnerable and raw and real than you ever will living in that myth. Now, it sounds very easy for me to say, but what happened for me was I was broken. My heart was broken wide open. And, when you can't move and you can't breathe and you're incapacitated, vulnerability was just natural. And then to receive the love and care was like, oh, this is such bullshit. This is such a myth. And then the other thing that I would share about pain, pain in my experience is carryable. That's where our strength as men can come in. It's not that we don't feel pain. We have to learn to carry pain, and pain is carryable, right? I mean, a very simple explanation. If I have a headache, I'm not going to call you and say, I can't make this live show and help these men. I'm going to power through with pain in my head. But more importantly, with a loss like I've experienced, where my heart is broken, no one can see that pain. I'm not wearing a cast or anything like that, but my heart will never be the same. It's bruised. You can't see it. But what I'm learning to understand is this: when your purpose is greater than the pain you're experiencing, you will be compelled to take action. So the very thing that we've been mythically told to stuff, to put down so that we could take action and show up, is actually the thing that creates the possibility for us to take the best, most purposeful and impactful action. And so what do I mean by that? Well, in trauma, in loss, and in grief, if our hearts are open and our eyes are open, whether you believe in God, universe, or spirit, there are angels here on earth, and there are angels up above that are here to support and help us. But if we're in the corner in the fetal position suffering, if our heart is closed and our eyes are closed, we can't experience that. But if our hearts and eyes are wide open, it creates the possibility that we may be called to something greater. And if we answer that call to something greater, my experience has been that new friends will emerge, new brothers and sisters on the path, new cohorts, new mentors, anything you need to have the impact you can have. So in our case, as soon as we learned about this stat, my wife and I felt this moral obligation to help make sure no other kid and no other family would go through what we've gone through. And we launched the Endurant Movement. It's a nonprofit to help these families. That purpose is what enables me to stay just north of suffering. So what I mean is, suffering, we can't act. We're paralyzed. It's not carryable. People may empathize and understand my loss, but if I'm suffering, I'm wasting the possibility of my destiny. But if I can just stay just north of suffering and experience pain, now I have an opportunity for what I call the both and. See, I can carry pain and be present, right? I can have the most extraordinary level of trauma and unimaginable pain that I've never felt before. So for me, I'm a loving guy. I love humans. I love interaction. People describe me as someone who squeezes every ounce of fun and joy out of life. And God bless me, man, that didn't go away. But then I also have experienced depths of pain and suffering and hardship that's unimaginable. But by accepting that I can carry the pain, I'm not trying to get rid of the pain, I'm not trying to numb the pain. What it creates is this vast spectrum of experience where I can feel the depths, untold depths of pain and discomfort, but so true is the equal and opposite. I've felt levels of connection, love, joy, intimacy that I've never experienced in my life. And it didn't happen moment one, but circling all the way back to your great question, just vulnerability is our superpower, men. And we have to let go of the BS story that's not being a man. I would argue it is the most masculine form of being a man that we can be. And to understand that when our purpose, some calling, something greater than our pain, we will just automatically be compelled into action.
Yeah, this is powerful stuff, brother. I really appreciate you sharing this stuff. One of the things that we fight through with our men's content and our men's podcasts and shows, etc., is the whole vulnerability piece. It's a wall that is probably one of the final walls that we just have a hard time getting it knocked all the way down. It's broken partially. I've seen men come in, join the mission, and leave because that's the sticking point. That's the one that that's the wall they can't climb or they're unwilling to climb. That's the summit that they can't reach or they're unwilling to reach for whatever the reason is, generationally or whatever it is. I'd love for you to kind of share, because I feel like there are men that are watching and listening and real on the replay, and they're hearing you share this story from a practical standpoint, an everyday living standpoint. They might be missing something. So I want you to help them out today, because I can tell by the tenor of your voice, the times where I feel the emotion rising up, that this is still fresh. Even after 2 years, you're still present with this pain, with the trauma of losing Anthony. I can hear that. I can relate to it in other situations as well. Tell the men that are watching, listen today, even whoever else is watching, what does it look like on a daily basis with you and your family? Because you guys probably see the pictures on the wall, or the room that he slept in, or you see the seat at the table that he used to make his seat.
Yeah.
What does it look like every day?
Yeah, I'll tell you about it. And I want to, how do I want to approach this? There's really two parts to what you're sharing there. And I think I'll work backwards. So there's the one part, how do I do it day to day in my experience in the real absence of Anthony here? And then the second part is how can I help other men break through their fear of vulnerability, especially if they take some chances and put themselves out there vulnerably, and maybe it doesn't go as they had hoped. And I'd really like to address both, because
please do. Go ahead.
Yes, my emotion comes from the loss from Anth, but what I'm really feeling emotional about in what you shared is that there are men who are coming, who are willing to try and to step into vulnerability, and for whatever reason don't feel what they need to, and they go back out. And that breaks my heart, because we have to help them. So how does it work? Especially early on. So grief doesn't get better, it just gets different. So yeah, Anthony was hospitalized for 9 weeks. We were fortunate enough and blessed to get to stay at the Ronald McDonald House across the street. So when we returned home after, over 2 months, the silence was deafening, and all the things that you shared about the room and the voice, and just his energy was just missing. And it was really, really hard, my man, early on. But what was interesting is I couldn't look at things, or I couldn't go into his room, or I'd walk around it, or it's very hard to see his car outside. But over time, when I say grief doesn't go away, or there's no closure or end to it, there are things that you do and steps you could take, but over time, if your heart's open and your eyes are open to it, especially if there's a purpose, something that's calling you to help others, to transcend beyond your own loss and pain, and to discover some reason why this has happened, because ideally it's something greater that you're being called to, those experiences shift. And the first shift happens by realizing, okay, this is really, really difficult, and I'm in a tremendous amount of pain, and I just don't want to be here. I didn't ever want to die, but there were so many moments that I didn't want to be here. I just wished I could just poof, disappear, but that's not possible. So what I learned is that it's possible to experience that missing, experiencing that yearning, cry when I smelled his clothes and he wasn't here, and just be present with that. And then also know that when I go into the next room, whether it be with my daughter or wife, I could be present with them. When my friends are encouraging me to come out and see a comedy show with them or live music, to show up, and that pain and ache still exists, but something like comedy or live music for me fueled my soul. And that's when I started to experience the duality of emotions, meaning I felt this pain and ache in my heart that no one could see, but I was also capable of laughing at funny stuff, feeling the beat of music in a way that I'd never felt it before. And that's when the muscle started to build, like, oh, it's not like I feel pain or heartache and then I need to change it to feel joy. And so you got to take those first steps, is what I would say, is like when you're hurting and you're grieving in those experiences where the missing and the ache just takes your breath away, experience every level of it. It's like when we were little kids and we cried and cried and cried. We're like, and we cried until we couldn't cry anymore. And then there was this like freedom, like the fever broke. Experience it to that level so it washes through you, because that creates the capacity for love and joy to also be experienced. So then when you're laughing, really feel that laughter. When you're experiencing connection, really feel that connection. That's what I would share about that second part about what you were saying. And then I really want to go back to that first part for any men that have taken a chance and stuck their toe in their water and have been vulnerable and maybe got shot down, or it wasn't received as I or you or your community might be sharing. Don't give up. It just means you haven't found your tribe. You haven't found the community of men, masculine men. You're surrounded more by people that are stuck in these old bullshit stories of conditioning. Now, you're not going to be able to convince them yet, but if you go to communities like yours and interact with folks like myself and other men out there, you're going to activate what's called your reticular activating system, a part of your brain that's going to start to seek these things out. So just change your space, change your environment, because when you start to share vulnerably, what you'll receive back is so beautiful and profound. You'll feel increasingly more comfortable to be vulnerable. So please, men, don't give up. If somehow you're shot down or maybe shamed for being vulnerable, you're just not with the right people just yet.
Thank you, Neal. I want to take the time to just ask a couple more questions and then we'll close the broadcast out for today. So I'll come back to the closure lie. I want to go ahead and give you the opportunity to kind of speak to that. It's the kind of phrase that's really hard to forget when you hear it. Yeah. Real briefly, what does that mean?
Yeah. So the good news is we've covered it in large part here, but basically, much like, men being vulnerable is a myth, this idea of closure is a myth. All right. I don't want to take anything away from, the 5 steps of grief or anything like that. All of those steps are true. You're going to experience, disbelief, anger, resentment, all those things. But grief isn't some process with a start and an end. It's not like this experience happens, you grieve, and then it's over and now you're back to yourself. That's the myth. Everything I've shared up until this point is the journey. The journey says that grief is just love that hasn't found a place to go. And so we carry the ache, we carry the heartache, and we love, and we show up, and we experience joy, and we experience intimacy. So grief just becomes something that shapes us. It becomes different. It becomes lighter. We become more connected. There's not a start and end to it. And just in the past couple of years, as I've worked with so many men, especially, they're frustrated because they've understood, like, if they do the work, then there's some magical healing and they're fixed. No, you do the work so that you can learn to, you don't want to lose that heartache. You want to feel the ache because it creates the possibility for even more joy. So the closure lie is this lie that has left so many men and humans feeling like they did it wrong because they're not feeling the relief of going through some process that's supposed to end in closure. But when in fact, when you can carry both the pain, you can't carry suffering, but if you can carry the pain and the joy, there's nothing to close or finish. And in fact, you're left with something far greater, a purposeful life, deeper connections, more love, more intimacy.
Love it, man. All right, so final question, man, and then we'll go ahead and close the broadcast out.
Yeah.
It's not too tough a question, but I do this on our shows, and I can't help myself. I think a little differently than other people, I guess. I offer and I speak and I podcast about community pretty much consistently in every area where I have any kind of reach in the media space or in the coaching space or even in the ministry space. I emphasize community a lot because I recognize the value of it, especially 6 years ago. I realized how much we really needed it and how much it's life-changing. How do you, Neal, practically guard against isolation outside of the family comfort zone? I'm asking that for a lot of different reasons because there are a lot of men that I've seen come through and leave, and they always lean on the family as this is all I need. I don't need to talk to anybody else. I don't need to be around anybody else. This is it. But the family doesn't consist always of men. So, especially men who don't automatically agree with what you have to say. So for you personally, Neal, how do you guard against isolation outside of the family comfort zone space, if that makes sense?
It does. And I'm going to answer your question, but I may not be the best person to answer the question as asked because I am an extrovert. I am someone who has always loved human beings. So I didn't struggle with isolation. And for me, isolation brings me closer to suffering, which I know is just sort of my barometer of where I need to be. Now, all that said, I think I can answer the question in some way to say that while it's not my personal experience, isolation is real. I saw that a lot in my wife. So where I was thrilled and lit up and enlivened by new people I met on the journey, her direction was more inclusive, more isolation. And in it on its own, that's okay as long as that isolation isn't leading to suffering, right? So we don't want to make someone who's feeling introverted say, go be extrovert. But we also want to make sure we're protecting against that isolation falling into suffering. But here's what I found is the family is the hardest unit. Okay. So especially in my case where we lost our son the way we did, it shattered all of us. And those closest to you, they're so close to it, they may not have the capacity and tools because they're living it too. And it's so hard for them to see you in pain and they just want you to be like you were. So community, everything you're doing, my man, like if I could encapsulate what you're doing and like I did at the beginning of this, the moment that changed everything is when that community flooded in. So I would say if you're an introvert and you're prone to isolation and you're stuck with just your family, please join this community, everything that you're setting up. Get around other men, just become more vulnerable, because those new perspectives will show up. But like I was saying earlier, your heart's got to be open, your eyes have to be open, you got to be looking around. There really are angels here on earth that are here to help you. But if you're isolated in your home, if you're only getting perspective from your family, where a lot of the condition comes from, these angels don't ever get to come into your life. I've lost some friends that I didn't expect to through this. When people told me I would, I didn't believe them, and they were right. But I've gained some new friends. I've held on to some good friends too, but I've gained some new friends in all walks of life that are just filling me up. So all that to say is, if you're an introvert, don't look at being alone as a bad word. But if your isolation leads to suffering, you got to step out. But community is your path to freedom, and that will help you back home with the family. It'll provide you new perspectives and insights, and it's a powerful tool, especially the work you're doing.
Brother, thank you so much, man. You're one of the strongest men I've ever met. I'm honored that you came on the show and did this today. Thanks for being so transparent, man.
Thank you, brother.
If this conversation added value to your life, to watching and listening, find Neal at nealtricarico.com. It's spelled Tricarico. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course. Share it with somebody who needs this message. We'll see you next time on the Men's Roundtable Series Spotlight. And of course, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Join us in the chat. Love to hear from you guys.
Men's Roundtable Series, step inside. Real men, real faith, where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the Men's Roundtable, pull up a chair.